Good evening, and welcome to World Showcase.
There is no place like World Showcase on the face of the whole wide world.
You are not the first to pass this way, nor shall you be the last.
Disappear! Disappear! Back! Back! Over the heart!
WDW Radio, your information station.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the WDW Radio Show, your Walt Disney World information station. I am your host, Lou Mangello, and this is show number 236 for the week of August 21st, 2011. This week, we're going to take a detailed tour of the Norway Pavilion in Epcot's World Showcase. Along with listeners who are from Norway, we'll explore the pavilion and how similar and different it is from the real Scandinavian kingdom. Recorded live from the pavilion itself, we'll discuss the architecture, culture, symbolism, history, and stories as we virtually tour the entire pavilion, including the courtyard, church, shops, dining options, and attraction. It's a fascinating look into how and where Norwegian culture, traditions, and history are found in the pavilion itself, and the attention to detail that Disney's Imagineers include to provide guests a truly authentic experience. I'll play some more of your voicemails and have some announcements at the end of the show, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of the WDW Radio Show.
To know this land's heart and soul, to discover its spirit. Norway. To discover its spirit.
Those who seek the spirit of Norway face peril and adventure, but more often find beauty and charm.
Walt Disney Place is a world in which fantasy becomes reality, all set on a three-dimensional stage. And environments and experiences throughout the parks and resorts are based on fairy tales and visions and hopes for the future, idealized worlds that never were, and a sense of adventure and fantasy. And some of the things that we get to see throughout Walt Disney World aren't necessarily based on that fantasy, but really are more in reality, and very much in present-day reality can be found in World Showcase in Epcot Center. It gives you a chance to experience the people and the cultures, and of course the food, because that's really the best way to learn about a people is through their food from around the world. And in an afternoon, you can literally circumnavigate the globe and get to experience and see so much. And it's really not about how we as people are different, but really how we are all very much alike in our history and in our cultures. And when Disney had to start putting together the original 9 and eventually 11 countries that make up World Showcase, it's really difficult to try and represent an entire nation or even region of the globe. And Disney had to make some very tough choices about how to balance history and modern day experiences, architectural elements, and lots more. And as somebody who has never visited most of the countries, other than the American Adventure, here in World Showcase, I often wonder how close they come to achieving their goal and with the choices that they made. I also wonder about the meaning behind a lot of what we see and about the details and the stories inside. In the past on the show, we've had a chance to look at the United Kingdom with a couple from the United Kingdom, and we explored that pavilion in depth, sort of making some of those comparisons between Disney's version of the United Kingdom and the real world United Kingdom. And I wanted to do that again, and this time in a place where those who seek the spirit of this country seek peril and adventure, but most often find beauty and charm. So, of course, I am talking about Norway. And again, I am with two friends, two listeners who traveled all the way from Norway just for this segment. Really just a vacation and a segment thrown in aside. Guys, welcome to the show. Introduce yourselves and tell me where in Norway you guys are from.
Well, I'm Erin. I'm from Oslo. We actually traveled from Liverpool today. I'm original Norwegian, but we traveled from Liverpool today.
You went through Liverpool to Norway and then here to Epcot Center.
We did, exactly, yeah. And this is my husband, David. He's English, actually, but he's kind of seeing it from...
I'm an adopted Norwegian, so I see it from the kind of bizarre parallel worlds of living in neither, so I'm kind of unique perspective.
So he's known the Norwegian culture for about 9 years and can sort of see it from the outside. Sort of all these weird cultural things that to me are like natural and completely fine. He's a bit like, okay, that's a bit weird, but it's fun to see from the outside, I suppose.
So tell me about the first time you specifically came to Disney World and came to Epcot. I had to assume that you knew about a Norway pavilion and had to be curious about how your nation, how your people were going to be represented. Do you remember that first time that you saw it?
Yeah, I do. I think I probably saw the state church first. Although I can't particularly remember that. Yeah, it was just sort of a feeling of Norway back in time, I suppose, and a little bit sort of cartoonized in a sense. And yeah, that kind of thing, sort of the juice of Norway, the concentrated Norway kind of thing. And everyone works there in Norwegian as well, so it's... yeah, it's very it's a cartoon Norway in a sense, the kind of the best of Norway extracted.
Right, well, which is sort of, that's what we, as people who've never experienced the country, hope to see as sort of a microcosm of what we might find there, and maybe enticing us. We'll talk about the film very much trying to get us to go to Norway as tourists. So hopefully this gives us a little sample. Let's just talk real quick about the history of this pavilion. Again, it is the most recent addition to World Showcase. It opened on May 6th, 1988, although as we were talking before, they had a dedication ceremony about a month later, and it very much was a big deal was made. And not only here, but it was live broadcast to Norway, and you had even said that Crown Prince Harald had actually come over to do the dedication and then broadcast it over to Norway as well.
Yes, it did. I didn't actually see that, but I wish I'd done now. So, yeah, it was good.
I know I do like to make a big fuss about something. If Norway is mentioned outside of Norway, like if there's an actress who has some kind of Norwegian heritage, or was an Oscar, it's front page news. It's like, who is it? Was it Renee?
Renee Zellweger is part Norwegian, and Norway makes a big deal of that. It's because we're a small nation. We're only 5 million people, if that. And anything in Norway does anywhere else. We're very much, because we're a new country as well, so we got that sense of nationalism.
Massive national pride, more so than you see in Britain, and you compare it to something like America, similar kind of age of country.
Yeah.
Very proud of we fought for this, and it's that kind of flag waving.
We only got our independence in 1814, so it's still like that, really.
And literally, she is sitting here waving a small Norwegian flag because tomorrow is Norwegian...
The Norwegian National Day, 17th of May we call it, 17. Mai, which is a huge day. It's a bit like your 4th of July in the sense that, well, everyone's off work. We got this huge parade going through the city centre of Oslo, and also smaller parades in different cities in Norway and also in the world, like this one in London, for example. There will be one here in Orlando tomorrow. So everyone's off school and work. Everyone's going around with the flags and yelling hurrah, hurrah, hooray, hooray, and singing Norwegian national songs and marching bands. The menu is basically just ice cream and pop and candies and hot dogs. Norwegian hot dogs are amazing, by the way.
I love Norway already.
Yeah, so it's a gigantic happy day kind of thing. It's kind of a bit like Disney World. It's like it's part of it's kind of built for children, but it's really for everyone. But it's that kind of level. It's great fun.
Well, we were saying before, Norway as we see it today was not the original plan from Disney. Originally, there was going to be a much larger Scandinavian pavilion, sort of encompassing a much wider region, and that ended up not happening. And you even know some of the reasons why that happened.
Well, I know that at least I know that the other countries said no, but Norway were keen to do it. There were some Norwegian investors who paid for most of the construction of it. Disney chipped in about a third, I think. So that was in 1988. In 1992, they sold their stakes to Disney, so it was fully Disney owned. Norwegian state paid, I think, around $200,000 every year for the next 10 years to sort of help keeping it up. Like the Norwegian film here, the film about Norway, would need some updating. We don't all walk around looking like it's still the 90s, but but other than that, yeah, it's.
The reasons might very well be back to the national pride thing, were because Norway had to fight for its independence. Denmark and Sweden, for example, they just took turns in owning Norway. We'll invade you now. Now we'll invade you now. And funny, when they got to be themselves, they would stake their claim to kind of like, if you guys don't want it,
show off kind of thing. We got this great country, we want to show it off. So I think it's national pride, which is the reason why Norway wanted to have a pavilion here.
And the spirit of adventure, probably.
And the fact that we want you guys to come and visit us. We want you to come and see what Norway's like for real. There are only 5 million of us. I think there've been more people to this pavilion than there are Norwegians. So.
Well, I can remember coming to this pavilion as a kid with my parents, and my dad loved the Norwegian film. And he's like, yeah, when you guys get older, it never happened, but he wanted us to all go to Norway. He sort of liked the sort of these small little villages and wanted to see what a completely different culture was like. So certainly the film and the sense of pride that you said definitely carried over to a lot of people and definitely resonated with them. As you approach Norway, either from across the lagoon or as you're walking around the promenade, you definitely get the sense that it is trying to honor that seafaring tradition that they speak about very much so in the film and on the attraction. This is sort of the recreation of maybe one of those small villages that you were talking about. But we have to obviously get a sense, too, that it's sort of that balance between the old world, historical, and, obviously assuming a very modern Norway as well.
Yeah, the architecture around is actually built on the architecture of 4 different cities in Norway. It's Oslo, Bergen, a place called Setesdal, and a place called Ålesund. So it's a mix between different parts of Norway, which is also interesting. But because you can see that you got the Akershus fort, the castle here, which is in Oslo. You got the sort of wooden houses of Bergen a bit further back there, and you got all these sort of mixes of different things thrown into one.
So on its face, it's very accurate because you were able to instantly recognize those areas and the elements of the pavilion that, for me, as somebody who's never been there, sort of blend together, but you see the very different, distinct areas.
Yeah, it's easy to see. I've grown up in Norway anyway, and I'm an actress, so I've toured Norway and seen different parts of Norway as well, and recognized them. So yeah.
And we were talking about some of that accuracy. We were chatting with one of the Norwegian cast members before. I don't know what you guys were saying. It was in Norwegian, but the costumes. It's a traditional national costume.
Yes, that's a big tradition we have in Norway as well. And the National Day, everyone wears their sort of specific Norwegian national costumes. It's from the different areas of Norway have different costumes.
Is it similar to a sort of geographical tartan? Everyone's got their own from their village, from their heritage, and they wear their own particular kind of thing with the little jewels. More.
It's a big sort of amount of pride in that. They'll wear it for any kind of big occasions like Christmas, christenings, that kind of thing.
Yeah, weddings and stuff.
Weddings as well. Well, not when you're actually getting married, but when you go to a wedding, you wear them. So it's, they're very colourful and very. They are actually very interesting. Some of them look. They're very. Colourful and different sort of shapes and very strange, I think, probably to other people. Right. Very sort of folk-like, but some of them are very beautiful as well.
You can almost you can almost read them. You can tell because there's lots of small things attached to them and details, which kind of are, I think, are a visual, like a language, I suppose, to kind of say where they're from and that kind of there's a history behind it. Like some people can read tartan, not me, but.
So it's happy to make you see. Oh, okay, she's from the north. She's from Oslo. She's from Trondheim. So that's. But I'm not entirely sure the one they're wearing. I think that looks. I'm not sure if that's a specific one, or if it's just general made-up one, because there are some made-up ones as well.
It may be an imagined sort of thing to encompass the whole spirit of Norway.
Right, sort of just embodying all those areas and all those sort of cultures together.
Yeah.
And so when you were speaking with her before, I know when we did this in the UK, it was a little bit easier for me to understand. Are you able to tell just from maybe their accent, maybe where they're from, whether there's distinct regions in their accents?
Yeah, no problem. There are big difference between Norwegian accents. I'm from Oslo, and we speak very much, jeg fra Norge, jeg snakker norsk. It's very sort of flat. But if you're from, the people from Bergen, for example, will speak like, jeg fra Norge, jeg snakker norsk. Whereas from the north, if we get it right now, it's more like, jeg fra Norge, jeg snakker norsk. So there's a big difference between the different accents in different parts of the countries. I can do more as well. There's big difference, but I think you in America have different accents as well, but I think in Norway it's even more so. In some places, a place called Telemark, I can hardly understand that. It's really, really tricky.
It all sounds like the Swedish chef to me. So.
I'm looking for Telemark because they're kind of no one can understand what they're saying. But they were who was in the film? There was a big, massive Hollywood movie, The Heroes of Telemark, because they played a huge part in stopping Hitler winning the Second World War by stopping their atomic plot. So that's why we're all still speaking English and Norwegian and not German. You know.
Yeah, and not Telemark, luckily, because I wouldn't be able to.
Well, let's start. I mean, we're right here by Akershus, which, as you said before, is not just the name of the restaurant, but it is an accurate recreation, obviously on a different scale and different size, but a real Akershus castle that's in Norway?
It is, yes. It's in Oslo. I'm from Oslo. It's right on the sort of dock in Oslo. It's a gigantic fort, which I think is from the 1400s, but I might be wrong. I can't remember numbers very well. So it's especially if you see that tower over there, that's very sort of typical of that. It's the same kind of stone it's made from. It's a good. It's partly a good replica. There's the roof there, maybe not so much.
It's kind of all. Is it like now? This is from my sort of visiting Norway sort of point of view and knowing some parts of it. But those parts, the window and the roof, seems more like the interior of the fort rather than the exterior. Looks like an actual fort. It looks like it could defend itself, which is more like the tower, I suppose. Is that right?
Yeah. No. If we go around the right-hand side as you approach China, we saw the side of the show building there. Very much sort of looks like a fortress on that side, as opposed to a little bit more maybe decorative on this side here.
Yeah, it is. Fortress and castle is the same word in Norwegian, so we just call it castle, but it was more like a fortress.
And today, is it something that's occupied? Is it a tourist destination? Is it a national monument?
Yes, it's a tourist destination, so you can go inside and have a look. Well, between it anyway. I'm not sure if they actually let you inside.
Do they still have soldiers there? I've seen soldiers.
Yeah, there's soldiers around there as well. So it's a good. If you ever go to Norway, it's a good place to go. It's a good place to sort of get some history and soak it up and go back in time a bit.
All right, so let's actually walk over to the entrance to Akershus, which now is a princess storybook dining, and it's known as a royal banquet hall. And what I wanted you to do real quick was just take a look at them. Have you ever eaten here before? So here's a
Yes, I have, yeah, many times.
So how accurate is the food here to maybe what you'd find either at home in Norway or in a restaurant?
Well, the starters are very good. There's a starter buffet, and that's very good. I mean, the only thing is in Norway, fresh prawns is one of the biggest. You will never find prawns better than Norway. Fresh prawns, they're amazing. The prawns here are a bit sort of watered out and a bit sort of old, and they're not great. Other than that, you got like smoked salmon in here. You got different sort of. You got something called brunost, which is brown ghost. I keep saying ghost cheese. It's not ghost cheese. It's goat cheese. Goat cheese, which is very weird. It's kind of like if you put it in water, it'll dissolve. And when you sort of slice it, it's a very strange thing. Apparently, someone I knew sent it to some Americans I knew, and I thought it was a soap. So
it is very, it's basically like sugar and cream, isn't it? Essentially,
it is.
It's very
caramelly,
and it's kind of got. You could probably make. It's got a consistency of plasticine. You can make things out of it.
So that's very good. Yeah. To be honest, the mains they have here, I don't think are the best. They're not quite as tasty as they are in Norway.
Do you think maybe it's sort of brought down for an American palate a little bit? So.
I think, well, apparently, last time I was here in January, they said they didn't have a Norwegian chef, and I think that's the thing, they don't really know quite how to make things. But they do have something called skolebrød, school bread, which they have in the kringla over there.
We're going to get there, don't worry.
That's kind of like got more flavour. It's like 10 times as much flavour as I actually think. So why that is the sort of main sound the best here is. But it's worth going just for the starters, because if you want to get a bit of a taste of Norway, the starters are brilliant.
Definitely, from a palate that's kind of used to British food and going to Norway, I would pay more than the charges for the princess and the dining and all that. Just for the starter buffet alone, they got the thing like the sursild, which is the sour sill fish, pickled fish. Which sounds terrible, but it's one of my favourite foods of Norway. I could eat that. They have I could eat that all day.
We eat that a lot at Christmas. Is this sort of sill? We have different. It's still in different. This is tomato one. This one in spicy one. Different versions of it. That's a very Norwegian thing they got here.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that I like this buffet, and I recommend it to people who want to maybe experiment a little bit. But there's no lutefisk on there. So.
No, there isn't. Lutefisk. Yeah, lutefisk. It's weird. It's this sort of weird jelly. It's fish that it makes sort of all jelly, and it tastes of what's the word again?
What is it like to farts?
No, I can't remember the word. There's a chemical they use in it.
Like lye, yeah, like lye or sulfur.
It's kind of sulfur. Yeah. It kind of tastes of sulfur. It's sort of jelly-like, and it's kind of like apparently. Well, the thing is, if you make it right, which is very difficult, it's apparently delicious. I haven't tried that before, but most of the time, it's very, very strange, I think.
Yeah, they seem to eat it on shows like Bizarre Foods and things like that. So probably not. But and I use that as an example because that's not what you're going to find here. If you do want to maybe sample, again, you learn about the culture a lot of times from their food. Obviously, very rich in fish and seafood here. This might be a good way to go ahead and do it. And there's princesses too, which is nice.
Yeah.
So.
The starters are definitely for me from the kind of obviously probably not to the sensitive Norwegian palate. That's what I am. Just from my comparison, from an outsider, it's definitely the starter's definitely Norwegian for the most part.
In Norway, the Norwegian diet is very much. We do eat a lot of bread. When I grew up, I hated bread because that's all I got almost. It's like breakfast, lunch, evening meal. It's just bread with different sort of meat, cheese, sometimes fish, I suppose, on. And also, but for dinner we tend to eat a lot of potatoes and fish, and it's very sort of solid
dependable food.
Dependable food, yeah. So it's very much that here as well. You get sort of something called salami, basically. Right. You have that, don't you?
It differently doesn't make it any different.
Yeah, oh yes. Oh yeah, and cheese and stuff. There's things like that there as well, and it's but it is very. And also, a lot of people might try something called Jarlsberg, which is a Norwegian cheese. Which we use for everything. We use it for pizza. We use it on the bread. It's yeah.
They have that there, don't they? Yeah.
And the restaurant's beautiful inside too. I mean, that sense of being in a fortress or in a castle very much carries over. So if people talk about wanting to go into Cinderella Castle, this is a great alternative for very much that sort of inside the castle experience.
It is, yeah. And they're very the Norwegians in there are very nice as well.
Yeah. Not to mention in the food, the dessert on the we've got, because we forgot about the dessert, which is kind of great. The kind of is the riskrem, the rice cream pudding, if you like. That's very traditional. Whether the flavour is the same, I don't know, but it's kind of I like it. I love it.
It's a Norwegian Christmas is very different from American Christmas. For Christmas, most places in the world, we celebrate Christmas in the 24th in the evening. First, we have this big meal, which is actually 3 types of pork for some reason. I don't know why. It's rib. It's some kind of pork, sort of thick sausage, and it's kind of like a meat.
Like a meat patty, like a sausage meat patty.
Thing, yeah. Which is amazing, and the Norwegian sauerkraut, which is a very sort of sweet sauerkraut, and potatoes. And for dessert, you have this rice cream, which is basically like rice porridge mixed with cream, and then with some kind of red fruit sauce on. So, but that's very authentic. So
that's beautiful. This is from a guy that before I met my Norwegian wife, that I hated rice pudding. That to me was kind of some kind of weird gloop you get of him. We had rice pudding in Britain. It's awful. But the rice cream is, it sounds simple, but it's so delicious. Yeah. Definitely, I'd eat that all day.
You made a quick mention of Christmas, and I wanted to talk about it, so we might as well mention it here. Obviously, World Showcase during the holidays is a completely different experience, and it's a great way to learn about how every different culture celebrates theirs. We think of Santa Claus here, but there's the Monkey King, there's La Befana. Tell us about sort of the Norwegian version of Santa Claus.
Well, yes, we have in Norway. We got something called fjøsnisser, which are sort of small versions. They're like gnomes kind of thing.
Yeah.
Santa-like gnomes, which a lot of people believe live in the barns and in different farms. And obviously we got Santa himself, the big Santa. In Norway, on the 24th in the evening, before we start opening the presents and everything, Santa actually comes in. He comes to visit us. You bring on the doorbell, and we go open the door, and he's like, "Oh my God, Santa's coming!" And he comes in. He's got this sort of big sack full of presents, and are there noen snille barn her? Are there any nice kids here? So he comes in and takes all the presents up and gives to the kids, and the kids are a bit scared. It's like meeting a Disney character because he's big and intimidating, but again he's got presents. So
Can I point out the reason they're scared? I mean, obviously coming for the first, I celebrate Christmas in Norway every year, and so one thing I've seen in, like, especially from like kids' home movies, is they have this kind of the way the people, the parents dress up for Santa. They have this mask, and now the kind of mask which I've only ever seen in movies where there's bank robbers. They're the kind of thing where they use, like, they might use the Nixon mask over here. It's kind of this sort of weird plastic. It's scary, but it's got lipstick on.
to be completely honest, the mask we had looked like a zombie.
Oh, it was
so we
scary.
had basically my mother or my father dressed up like some kind of weird zombie Santa. So,
So you deserve presents for actually enduring the horror that is going to be Christmas Eve.
yes, we do.
If I think I'd be traumatized if I grew up on Norwegian Christmas. That's why. I wonder, like, we have the guy just while you're asleep. Well, that's scary enough. He only comes if you're asleep. That's fine by me.
Well, the thing is, he likes Norwegians better. That's why he actually visits us personally.
Yeah, he goes there first. Yeah.
Yeah, Norwegian. It's a big day in Norway, obviously, like everywhere else. It's just traditions are different, but it's the same, ultimately the same thing.
Right, again, it's those similarities in the culture, again, but with some of those subtle differences. We have a big fat jolly guy in red. You have giant zombies.
Yeah, giant zombies with psycho masks.
Yeah, and we also have something else. We have Christmas marzipan. You know, marzipan is a big thing. We have marzipan for Christmas. We have marzipan for Easter.
Yeah, it's the same marzipan, but it's like in different shapes. It's
it's different.
No, it's not different.
Because it's got different packaging.
Yeah, it's rounded up. They have it's shaped in like little sausage, like little finger shapes. They just kind of repackage it at Easter as like Easter marzipan.
Like Santa and Christmas things, and on Easter we got chickens. Tastes different then. Yeah.
Notice, see, it always comes back to the food. I am not alone. It's always about the
Because
food.
I haven't eaten today. Everything. 'Cause I think of Norway. I think of food constantly.
Yeah, we're definitely going to get to the food. We're gonna hit this. We're gonna save the bakery for last, and some of the best. So obviously this fortress that is the castle looks just like that. It looks very much like a castle. But as you sort of walk or look in a counterclockwise direction going left, you see different elevations, different colors, different textures, and it obviously gets a little bit more delicate as you go across. There's a lot of, especially on the puffin's roost, a lot of lace-type carvings. But you said you were very much able to tell, sort of by looking at things like the maelstrom at the building in between that and the castle, different areas of Norway very clearly represented.
Well, yeah, you can see that. Obviously, the Akershus castle, it's from Oslo. And then you have the sort of colourful, sort of orangey red buildings that are very sort of much from Bergen. There are 4 different types of architecture here, I might have said before. It's from Oslo, it's Bergen, it's Setesdal, and it's Ålesund. So it's different. It's these sort of different types of architecture, different textures here, like the stone. There's the sort of wood, the sort of brown wood for the church, and there's sort of softer painted wood for more modern wood, I suppose, for the house from Bergen.
They build an awful lot of stuff out of, still even now build houses and properties out of wood because it's so, I mean, most of Norway is forest, and if it's not forest, it's mountain. So it's kind of they've got more resources to build things than there are people and land to build it on. So of course a fort needs to be stone, but other than that, it's kind of, there's such skilled workers.
So buildings like you'd see on the fjording here is something you might see built today in one of those seaside villages.
Yeah, in Bergen, it's very sort of it's very sort of a seaside villagey kind of. It's very nice actually. It's south of Norway have a lot of wooden buildings like that.
One thing I know that they do, and we'll talk. I want to kind of go through the shops as well and go through the Puffin's Roost. Obviously, Norwegian trolls very much a part of the decor here. I know around the holidays they actually hide a number of trolls around here for kids to do. Can you tell us quickly about sort of the connection of the trolls to Norway?
Yeah, I think people used to believe that they actually lived in the forests, and of course they do. But it's kind of the symbol of Norway, I suppose. If you go, when I was a young acting student in Norway, I did have a holiday job, or a job in a tourist shop, and there was a lot of trolls. They used to make them out of wood, carve them out of wood, or they used to make them out of stone, glue two stones together, pebbles. But now they're made from rubber. But it's a very sort of Norwegian symbol, which other people, a lot of tourists will find in the house, I suppose.
I want to take a walk inside the Puffer's Roost and look around the shop a little bit. But if you could translate for me, this first building here, the Fjording, has a horse outside, and I won't even try and pronounce what Matt Og called it.
Well, Fjording is a type of horse. I'm not sure if you've got that in English as well.
How do you pronounce that?
Mat og konfekt. Mat means food, og means and, konfekt means chocolate, like a chocolate box.
Okay,
kind of thing,
like a confectionery type of candy store. Okay.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So yes.
All right, let's go inside. Let's look at some of the merchandise in there and see how sort of representative it is of what you might find. Again, very much you're going to see, in addition to Duffy Bear, you're going to see a lot of trolls in here as well.
Actually, some sort of what do you call it? Norwegian traditional paint work on the doors here.
It's like there's a lot of strong history of something I studied, being from an art background. There's a lot of folk art in Norway you'll find on
rose paintings. We call it rosemaling.
Yeah, and they're actually even on the ceiling, on the beams of the ceiling in here as well.
Yeah, those on the door actually looks more authentic to me. But yeah, and on the furniture and stuff is lots of rosemaling, as we call it.
So again, this is. Again, inside the buildings are separated as they are outside. This is a sort of very low beam ceiling, dark wood.
Yeah.
And this is something you might find like in a traditional Norwegian shop.
Yeah. Well, maybe the old sort of countryside shops, but to me it looks more like a sort of Norwegian farm from the old days. It's sort of that kind of.
And as you said, it's all about the candy.
Yes, here we go. This is melkesjokolade, Norwegian milk chocolate. It's the best chocolate in the world.
Now you said that before. We hear about Swiss chocolate and German chocolate, and you're saying the Norwegian. And we'll try some of this later. Don't worry. But you're saying it's the best. Why do you think it's? What is it?
I think it's Norwegian cows make better milk than other cows. I know it's very sort of it's very creamy. There's a lot of milk in it. It's very melty, melts on your tongue. It's quite sweet, but I think it's got the right balance of that as well. It's very addictive. I know lots of people around the world who get Norwegian milk chocolate sent to them because they love it so much. We got Stratos, which is sort of a area one, which is it's made from Nidar, which is the second biggest chocolate company. The melkesjokolade is made from Freia. If you want proper Norwegian milk chocolate, look for Freia. That's a good stuff. We got something called Troika, which is a bit of a strange one, I suppose. It's got a thin layer of marzipan at the bottom. It's got some sort of truffle-ish. What do you call that?
Yeah, it's like a truffly chocolate, weird, half cakey chocolate. They don't even know what it is.
And it was some raspberry jelly, and it's all covered by dark chocolate, and it's very good.
It's really bizarre food.
And you got Non-Stop, which is another favourite, which they're not like Smarties basically, but it's dark chocolate. And you use it at Christmas. You got these sort of gingerbread houses, and traditionally you're only supposed to decorate them with Non-Stop, which are these Smarties things. In all different colours, and something called Seimen, which are sort of jelly men, sort of stretchy jelly men with sugar on top of it. So that's basically what you're supposed to decorate. That's what you use that for, or you eat it.
It sounds so bizarre when you talk about it. I'm used to it now, but I remember my first memories. It's all coming back to me now. The first kind of and you're only allowed to decorate them with that, and then the weird traditions, which are kind of they do hold traditions very well, but it's kind of.
It's like, you want to try some of this? No.
Yeah, but it's tradition. We might not understand why it is what it is, but to follow. A couple of the things are here, and we talked about some food. We're going to sit down. You brought some food from Norway, which I'm so excited about. Licorice being one, and licorice maybe not as we in America are used to, but also they have a lot of these, and I love these ginger flavored pens.
Sweden. It's Swedish.
Oh, see, so it's not. It shouldn't be here.
No, not really. I mean, to be honest, to be fair though, it does look like Norwegian ginger biscuits. We call them pepper cakes, pepperkaker. So it might sort of taste pretty much like it, but they are Swedish.
I think they have
blueberry flavored things. I don't know. I never heard of that. Lemon flavored things. I've heard of that. Chocolate. I never heard of any of the other stuff. But the ginger things look like pepperkaker.
I think it looks like they kind of because Sweden export a lot more than Norway does. Hence IKEA being absolutely everywhere. As you can see from the mint thins, they're actually that's packaged and sold for the US market. You know, so that's what they're called, whatever they are, thins. Okay. So that's probably why they're here rather than having Norwegian biscuits. Sorry, cookies, as you call it.
Moving into the next section of the building, obviously the decor changes from a hardwood floor to a carpet floor, a much more delicate type of setting in light blues, crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. And here you can smell it as you walk in, a lot of perfume, a lot of jewelry. But one of the things that fascinated me that I was really curious about were a lot of the things that you found on the wall. There's a sign here talking about traditional bridal treasures from turn of the century.
Yes, it's you got the wooden spoons here, which is something you'd find hanging on the wall in people's houses, which is probably pretty bizarre, but it's what I'm used to. You got the sort of a table, little sort of tableclothy things that people
like table like lacework.
Lacework kind of thing. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, that you find on the table in Norway a lot. It all looks very. And the room itself doesn't look particularly Norwegian to me. I'm no expert, obviously, but yeah, but the stuff on the wall definitely.
The odd stuff because they call sometimes these. I reckon like sort of the actual. They got. I mean, the fact that they've got wood paneling, I suppose, a little sort of. There's flavours of it. There's little touches of it. But the actual, it's not.
Actually, you see the holes. It's got these sort of square holes. I think that's hardong embroidery. It's this sort of particular stitching that you do, which is apparently extremely difficult. You sew around it and you cut through it.
You're right. It does say that. Well done. I've just cheated and looked at the sign, and she's correct.
Okay, yeah. It's apparently a friend of mine tried to do it. It's difficult. And on top of it, I recognise that. That's old traditional sort of Norwegian bride outfit, which is sort of it's sort of Norwegian sort of national costume and this sort of weird gigantic crown.
It's a weird crown. The crown looks like it's more appropriate to like Thailand or somewhere where they have that kind of overly gigantic crown thing. That's
a very famous painting. It's called Brudeferdig Hardanger, which is bride. Well, it's basically about a bridal party in a boat driving into the fjord, which was actually my great grandfather, I think it was a great grandfather, was at the time a very famous painter in Norway. No one's heard of him now, but that was painted by one of his biggest competitors. So
you don't speak of it.
Yeah, and strangely enough, because I'm from a bit of an actor family, my grandmother recreated that painting on TV once. Strangely enough.
There's also a lot of beautiful jewelry here. It seems predominantly silver, but there's also some beautifully decorated like pins and butterfly pins here in the case as well.
My entirely, those are very traditional. Those are sort of the silver. We put them on your national costumes.
Like a brooch or a brooch, depending on how you want to pronounce that.
Okay.
They're very traditional brooches, so that's why you put on your national costumes. Those down.
So some
there.
of the costumes that we spoke about earlier that are similar to what the cast members here are wearing?
Basically, different all the way, all a different place in the country.
Yes, if you come to the Norwegian shop and you want the traditional thing, it's kind of, you look at the back wall, ask for the stuff the jewellery that looks like part of the national costume, then you're getting the real thing.
These tiny little round pieces of silver, like little drops.
Made of circle. Everything's kind of round. It's a circle made of circles and more circles.
It's hanging down. It moves very nicely in the sun as well. It moves all around, and yeah, it's very. The rest of it, though, I don't really recognise much of the rest of it. It's probably more sort of modern design.
There's a thing that sings "Design Stockholm House," which again is Swedish. I think there's a lot of.
A little crossover here.
A little bit easier access because, of course, it is that makes Scandinavia, which is made obviously Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland or Iceland, depending on which you look at it.
We do have some silver jewellery, which is I can't really see anywhere here, which I'm kind of surprised. It's called Saga jewellery, which is replicas of Viking jewellery.
Yeah, they don't have that here, no.
That's actually some really nice designs there. You should take that in here. That would sell really well, I think.
Let's move on to the next. You actually found one in the case?
I think that's the hammer, Thor's hammer, some kind of version of that. Yeah, Viking jewelry is nice.
Moving into the next room, again, it's very pink. Again, very delicate. That sort of wainscoting on the walls and cutouts on the lower sections. It's also a location of a Kid Cot fun stop where kids can come in and do some little crafts and things like that. It's a lot of plush and some, looks like, I guess, Christmas ornaments.
Yes, I don't really know what kind of thing this is. Supposed to be an angel, I think. This is very Norwegian as well. It's kind of made from some kind of straw, I think. Figures made out of straw.
Yeah. There's a lot of from
handmade, a lot of handmade Christmas decorations. We do make that a lot when we're kids.
Okay. Yeah.
I suppose you do as well. And there's some little gnomes here, little nisser as we call them, and there's Santa and there's a little nisse on his back. So that's very Norwegian.
If you're in to identify again from an outsider's point of view, to help to identify anything, if you see any kind of little sort of like childish figure with like a tall red, looks like a kind of a sleeping hat, then that's a nisse, which is kind of something to do with Christmas. So that's how you can identify that.
There's a book about Norwegian cooking here as well, which is interesting. There's not many pictures though, but it's.
That's not much use, is it? How do you know what you're cooking?
Is that
yes, we do. Rose paintings on them. Wouldn't place rose paintings on them.
So in the back of the Kid Cot Fun Stop, and again, we're starting to get introduced to the idea of trolls, but in this Kid Cot Fun Stop, there's shelves with what look to be hand-carved trolls and toys, Viking ships, and some games. And in the back, there are some beautifully hand-painted plates as well. Can you tell us about some of the things we've seen here?
Yeah, they have the plate. The plates are very much. If you go to some older person's house, you'll find that kind of thing on the wall, hanging on the wall. Often they're not used for eating from, not anymore anyway. They're just for decoration. It's and the trolls over there I told you about earlier. They're normally, those kind of trolls are normally carved from wood, but those might be the new ones that are made from rubber. Sort of different. Some have two heads, and some have a walking stick, and the laughing, and it's I'm pretty sure that's the rubber ones. But they're very. It's a piece of Norway, something that it's very Norwegian.
These on the other side, there's again, you can see the wood carver's tools for the Viking ships. And what are some of these games that are on the walls? Are you familiar with those at all?
Nope, I have no idea.
Even the cast member from Norway is shaking her head.
No. I'm not sure if they're particularly Norwegian. It might be an old Viking game, I suppose, but I don't really recognise them. But the Viking ships as well, very much, if you go to an old person's house in Norway, you very often see sort of old Viking ships. Well, they're not that old, but just...
Everything is like much like kind of a lot of the pavilions or kind of symbols and old things. From most countries, you tend to only find them in old people's houses.
You used to have outside as well, you used to have a replica of something called Osebergskipet, which is a Viking ship. Which is very interesting, but apparently it wasn't supposed to last for that many years. They had to remove it, but that was a very nice one.
Yeah, it was a children's play area on the left-hand side of the pavilion as you were facing it. They did take it away. We'll go out there. There's elements of it still there.
Yeah.
It's used now for part of a Kim Possible interactive game, but it was a neat little play area for kids to go out and see. And if I remember right, it was an actual prop from the 13th Warrior. I don't remember the name of the film that it was a prop replica from as well. What famous films about Norwegian Vikings? Go.
Pass.
The Vikings? That's old though, right? That's quite a big one.
Yeah, maybe. I don't actually know. I should know. Being an actress and being Norwegian, I should really know.
The 13th Warrior, I'm sure that might have been. Wasn't that Vikings, the 13th Warrior?
I don't get out of the house very much.
Good. We're a team of experts on Viking movies, so why not?
All right, so moving into the next room, again, it's very, very different in design and decor. You almost get the sense that you are in
like a wooden
lodge,
cabin.
yeah,
that kind of thing.
Somewhere.
That's a big tradition in Norway. Like a lot of families, I would say every family, that's not true, have a cabin somewhere on the mountain or by the sea. So it's very much like that kind of thing, like big wooden beams. They're often brown, and some skis as well. In Norway, we say we're born with skis on our feet, because pretty much as soon as you start, when you're a little baby and learn to crawl in your phone. You get up and you start to learn to walk. And as soon as you can walk, your parents will put skis on your feet, so you'll just fall down again. Eventually, you'll learn to walk with them.
And the snowshoes.
Yeah, snowshoes. Yeah, I've never worn any of those actually. Being from Oslo, but very useful in really deep snow. It can get very deep. It's even lately, last couple of winters, my dad's got a gigantic tree in his garden, and he calls me up saying, "I can't see my tree. It's all snow down." So there's still a lot of snow there.
I mean, and as we start to go into the next section where there are tons of sweaters, what's the climate like in Norway?
It's really cold in the winter, and I can't really deal with that very well. It depends. It can be up to 6 months of mostly snow, which is very. I mean, ice and everything like that. You just fall over. You have a cold all the time, and it's. I'm not a big fan of that, but most Norwegians really love the seasons because there are very sort of strong seasons, and summers can be quite warm.
Not like Florida warm, but.
No, well, it can be, but it's rare. It tends to be sort of mid-20s, that kind of thing, sometimes late 20s. David's found akevitt there. What do you pronounce that?
They say like...
It's pronounced in Norwegian.
I know that. That's very like people say because it's akevitt, I suppose they say. Yeah, but this is...
the life of water, the water of life.
Yeah, which is basically booze, as most water of life tends to be. Rather than actual water, which is the water of life.
Especially around Christmas. First time my husband was in Norway at Christmas, my uncle kept serving him more and more, and at the end he could hardly sort of see his glass. So he just put his hand on top of it for my uncle to stop pouring, but he would just pour between the fingers. So it's a drinking culture in Norway, I suppose.
Yeah, this is kind of like it's one of those kind of things which is like especially like after food, or again, as Erin says, a traditional Christmas drink. Even people who kind of really don't like it, they'll have a bottle of it out at Christmas.
There's a Swedish on this one. It's called cloudberry. In Norwegian we call it molter, which are berries that are very expensive because they're very difficult to find. You've got to go up in the mountains and pick them. They're quite rare. Well, not that rare because it's a jar of jam here, but they're difficult to find. Lingonberry, that's something called tyttebær. This molter, we mix that with cream and use it for desserts most of the time. Lingonberry, again, is Swedish, but we call it tyttebær.
Lingonberries, thanks to it's very common. I think lingonberry is around everywhere, isn't it? The kind of people are very familiar with lingonberry, but that's a very traditional Norwegian thing to have with.
We make it into a jam, and we have it with food. We have it with dinner, like meat and potatoes, and you have that just on the side with it. It's very tasty. So it's for this hour, I think.
So again, we are very much seeing the trolls. Obviously, the centerpiece of this section of the store is the giant troll, probably one of the big photo opportunities in and around the pavilion. Again, you said still very much part of Norwegian tradition and culture for kids, or?
Yeah, in Norway, in Oslo, they walk around the street, and no, they're not. But yeah, but it is. It's very. It's a big part of tradition, our culture and identity, I suppose. If you have to have some kind of mascot for Norway, it would be the troll. So when there are a lot of Viking helmets as well, which football games and everything like. So you call it soccer games. People wear the Viking helmets for some reason, and I suppose it's a myth that the Vikings used to use them in fight because it would be very stupid. People just grab them, but they were actually worn during some kind of ceremonial
things. That kind of they wear it, but they wear it like that.
Yeah.
As in battle, it's like giving somebody handles for your hands.
Yeah, basically, not a good idea.
Well, and I'm sure now there's going to be a renewed interest in Norway, and especially for kids, as Marvel Studios under Disney now is releasing Thor, and I remember as a kid reading Thor comics and learning all about that. But here, Thor hammers and Thor figures. Is Thor a popular, figure in culture?
Yeah, it's something you hear about. We call our teacher school was called Thor, as we call it. So we call it Thor with a hammer and Thor with a hammer. So it's there. It's sort of reference to, but other than that, it's not something we talk about every day.
I was because same as you, Lou. I grew up reading like Thor. To me was kind of obviously like the god of thunder, but also the comics. It was thought it was superhero. So
sounds very cool in England and American, doesn't it? But in Norway, it just sounds like some middle-aged dude.
Yeah, that's the weird thing when I found out, kind of like Thor, like what, Tur? It's kind of, it doesn't, Tur doesn't quite have the same.
It doesn't have the same impact as Thor with his mighty hammer, the mighty Avenger Thor. But just quickly talking about Thor and his presence, we were introduced to him through comic books as a kid. We were talking earlier about comics and sort of the Disney connection, and you were asking me and were telling me about the Disney or Norwegian connection, something that I was very much unaware of, and who for you is very much the predominant character.
Yeah, if you speak to any Norwegian about Disney, or any Disney characters like Donald or Goofy or Mickey Mouse, the first thing we think about is Disney comics, because every week in Norway since, I don't know when it started, but definitely early 50s, or maybe even earlier than that. My dad used to collect them. He had a huge collection of them, which unfortunately my grandmother threw out, which he's very angry about now. Every week there's a Donald Duck comic coming out, a new issue every week.
An actual comic book, not a comic strip like in a newspaper.
No, it's a comic book. It's a like a magazine kind of thing. Very popular. It's probably the most selling of any kind of thing on the magazine rack. There's a monthly Mickey Mouse comic. There's like a Donald kind of soft cover book coming out every month. There's another one in Scrooge. Just loads of like holidays. You find sort of special issues and stuff like that. So it's very much Norwegian tradition to read comics. If you go on a camping trip, there's always some comics lying around. So
and you brought me, you brought a couple to show me, and you said it's when you say, a lot of people read them, you don't mean just children, you mean adults as well.
Yeah, it's like Disney, I suppose, which are kind of, a lot of people think are only for kids, but really it's written for everyone, so everyone can enjoy them, like the Harry Potter books, in a sense. So, it's a bit like, you may not want to admit to everyone that you read them, but you do read them. So it's like Donald Duck often. A traditional story, that sort of thing that repeats, is he gets, for example, a job, he becomes an expert in cutting people's hair, and he does these sort of amazing haircuts to everyone, becomes a famous hairdresser, and he gets this big job at the end of it that he completely screws up and has to escape to Peru. That's a typical story.
Well, it's curious though, in the kind of, because it started in America. Obviously, the Donald Duck. Obviously, some of your listeners probably have them themselves. The kind of the Donald Duck comics, and they actually started in the strips in the newspapers. But what's the strangest thing when first time I've ever seen a Donald Duck comic was in Norwegian, and the fact that of course he's got a speech bubble, he talks. There's no speech impediments in the comics, so it's strange to kind of like, give me back that spade. I'm going to dig that garden myself. You three, what are you doing over there? And that is the weirdest thing when you first read the comic, is Donald's elocution.
There's a guy called Carl Barks who made a lot of the characters, and he's the guy most big guy. He's almost like the Walt Disney of just the comic parts of it. Is the big guy. And there's a guy called Don Rosa, who's my personal favorite. Amazing stories, and the characters are much more alive, much more expressions. He made
very much in the vein of kind of like not necessarily Robert Crumb style, but in the '60s, the kind of comics have kind of given people like wrinkles in the knuckles and stuff like that, kind of wrinkles in the forehead, that kind of giving the face a lot of detail.
Yeah,
and it's interesting that, considering how prevalent Donald is in Norway, when you come into the shop here in the Norway Pavilion, there's not really references to Donald whatsoever.
They used to have a Donald Duck soft toy with a Viking helmet
He's
on.
over there, he has it,
they don't sell the comics, obviously.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, actually, no, there he is. There's the. Yeah. So the plush is actually of Donald as opposed to Mickey in a Norwegian costume.
Basically, yeah, because he's a big hero in Norway. So I said that to Donald. I met him in Disney World as well. You're the big favorite in Norway. And he's like, ooh. So people like Mickey as well.
Well, if you remember, I think if anyone remembers the Pal Mickey, he used to actually say when you arrive, we used to take him around with you. You arrive outside the Norwegian Pavilion, and Mickey would, his little buzz and be like, he would tell people, did you know in Norway, like Donald's they're very famous in Norway. So it's kind of, so Mickey does admit it.
Mickey Mouse is a detective in Norway, and a lot of the comics, a detective has got a detective company and stuff. So it's time traveling he does. It's amazing, and they make these sort of. This is, I suppose, American culture. It's really American comics. Italian comics as well. We get a lot of the comics from Italy as well.
Okay. So the last section, which is actually where the Maelstrom attraction empties out into, is all about Norwegian clothing. And this was always very curious to me because I didn't know if this was our interpretation of what Norwegian clothing is or what Americans would want. Predominantly beautiful, beautiful sweaters. Again, living in Florida where it's 106 degrees in the winter, I don't normally look in this section. But tell us about Norway. Yeah, is that one of the more popular?
It is. When I was a young acting student in Norway, I had a holiday job working at a tourist shop. But the main thing I sold was these Norwegian sweaters. This is called Dale of Norway. It's a big brand in Norway. They are very expensive, but it's great quality. I bought one like 10 years ago, and it's still I still wear it every winter. I do wash it, but this one is $325 for a sweater. It's quite a lot.
Seems about right for the price. Yeah, they're very expensive in Norway even. So don't feel like you're getting ripped off here. It is.
No, yeah. I mean, and are they? I mean, I have to assume that they're. I mean, they seem like they're very, very warm. I remember one of the cool Januaries here, being here with my wife. She says, I only have a T-shirt on. I went, let me go get a sweater. We walked into Norway and I picked it up and I looked at the tag and I said, like this one, $465. I told her to go get some hot chocolate instead. But they're beautiful. And is this sort of the same kind of traditional, stitch work that you'd see?
There are different patterns. This one is a very traditional. That's the most traditional one. It's called lusekofte. Lus means lice, but it's got nothing to do with that. Really. I don't know. Nice. No, actually, I do know what it is. These sort of little V's all over. Look like the letter V again and again. We call them lus, like lice. Because they look like them,
it's
I don't know.
It's not working out well in translation, is it?
It isn't.
Something gets lost. Yeah, something gets lost along
but it's
the way.
very traditional. It's different sort of traditional designs, sort of snowflake design here. This one is red, white, and blue, which are Norwegian colours. And people in Norway actually wear those.
They're extremely thick. I mean, the one that Erin's got one at home, and they are heavy. If we have to take it anywhere, I banned taking it anywhere on holiday because it was kind of taking up half our allowance in weight because it was so well made, so well built.
But I have to assume incredibly warm for those those lovely winters that you have for 6 months that you set out of the year.
Exactly, yeah. When I worked in tourist shop, most of the people who got in there buying these were Americans, loads of Americans, especially from the north. With Norwegian heritage, you want to buy these sweaters and take them back home because they apparently are sold in America, other places in Disney World as well. But again, very expensive.
Yeah, I know a lot of people.
Go to Norway and buy it.
A lot of people have been introduced to a certain degree to Norway from Sig Hansen and from watching Deadliest Catch. Helly Hansen, is that another?
Yes, that's a Norwegian brand which is sold all over the world. Mainly sort of raincoats and that kind of for walking. So it's mainly sort of sweaters and no, that's not sweaters. Sorry, jackets, not sweaters.
Yeah, this entire section is all
weatherproof. It's weatherproof sort of jackets, I suppose.
It's supposed to be for yachting originally. I mean, when the Helly Hansen brand came to Britain, it was supposed to be for yachting, but there were kind of like people wearing them for being out in the street where they'd withstand the north.
I suppose that's fishing tradition again. Where that's coming from. So
is that like the American view of Norwegians now is kind of like this heroic guy sort of battling the oceans to catch fish?
Just big men on big boats, right? Just with beards. You all have horns on your heads and hats and everything.
Yeah. It's a normal thing.
Yeah, and I think that's why this was one of the countries that fascinates me so much, is because we know so very little. Because we don't have, the UK, obviously, we have a lot of exposure to, and China and Japan. But Norway, we don't see very much. We have very little exposure to it. So I was very curious as to, was this a microcosm of what you'd see, or was it sort of more of a fantasy version of what they want to present Norway as?
It's pretty accurate, I think. It's sort of concentrated Norway, pretty much. The stuff you get in the shop, all authentic. Authentic copies, partly anyway, of the architecture as well. So it is very good, I'd say. Yeah.
One of the, again, from an outsider's point of view, to get the one thing that you will notice is very much the sounds, which is appropriate for an audio podcast. Is you may hear in the background here. If you stand nearby and listen to the Norwegian, the cast members talking, you'll hear them speaking Norwegian, and that's the sound. That's the thing. You're in Norway. That's the thing you hear, of course, all the time, and that's one of the things that people kind of forget. That gives you a true flavour. is just listen to the people talk, because it may sound like, you know, Swedish chef, it may sound like gobbledygook, but that's, I can understand it now, but that's something that if you want a flavour, just do that, stand near the people, it's free, and that gives you a true flavour.
And two, the thing that I like, and I always encourage people to do either with their kids or by themselves, is to go and talk to the cast members. Not just about the merchandise that you're buying or reservations at Akershus, but about them, where they're from, their culture. It's such a great one-on-one learning opportunity that I think a lot of people pass by because they're thinking about, I've got to get to Maelstrom, I've got to get to Test Track, I've got to get here to here. If you slow down like we're doing and explore the pavilion and talk to the people, you've got a great opportunity that you wouldn't have anywhere else.
Absolutely. Well, we do actually. The what used to be the masks, which are now the little duffies. The children are supposed to collar in and go.
The kid cot stops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We actually we have an art company, so we're interested in art, I suppose. But we actually go around to different countries and collar them in together with the kids, because then we get to speak to the people working there. And sometimes he did one with different monsters from each country.
I did, yeah, the monsters. It was inspired by one previous year. I drew Godzilla in Japan, thinking that's next time. Each country's monster, which is sometimes a bit of a tough one with the cast members. Like, what do you have a monster? And they're like, I don't know what a monster. I don't know if we have a monster. No, we have a lion. That'll do. I'll do a scary lion.
It is cool because then you get to speak to the cast members about different things to do with their nations. And once we did different sort of foods from each country. So you just get a piece of the nation, basically.
Speaking of foods, let's go back outside. We have a very important thing that we need to cover.
Oh, yeah.
And I do want to mention one other thing too about the architecture outside, and then I want to talk about Maelstrom a little bit as well. But one thing when we go back outside that I think people oftentimes overlook is right by the bakery. If you look up on the roof, it's not a shingled roof, it's not a tiled roof, it's a roof that looks like and is actually really made out of grass.
Yes. If you go to Norway on the countryside, and it's quite rare now, but on the old farms you will find that they're made from grass. It's cheap, good insulation, and it looks cool, really.
So, but it is something that you would have, again, like you said, not something you might find now. But if you went out to one of these older villages, and as we step outside, we can look up and see you would find. I mean, they would literally just grow grass and just let it grow naturally or freely, or do you have to mow your roof?
Well, actually, they didn't really have lawnmowers much thousands of years ago, but they had goats. So I've seen like goats climbing around the roof, eating the grass, which is it's a bit weird, I suppose. But it's something you find like what we call Vestland, the west side of the country, which is where you find the sort of huge, famous Norwegian nature, huge sort of mountains and the sort of beautiful fjords. It's probably one of the most beautiful things you will ever see. That's where you find that kind of things. Other places as well, but...
All right, so we're going to wait a second before we go to the bakery, because I do want to talk about really the icon of Norway, besides the troll inside, is the church. It's what people see. It's really what it represents.
Yeah, the state churches. They started building around the year 1050. They had them in many countries, but the only ones left now are in Norway. There are 28 left of them. This one is a replica of Gol stavkirke, which is in Oslo, a museum with lots of traditional buildings in it.
When you say there was 28 left, I mean, originally there was a couple of thousand, right?
1,000, yeah, around 1,000. A lot of them are being kept very well. Apparently, unfortunately, in the early 90s, I think it was, there were some people who thought it was fun to light them on fire, and lots of them burnt down, which was a horrible tragedy, really. If you look at the design of them, when Christianity came to Norway and we started building these churches, we made them out of wood because that's what we're used to, making things out of wood. And they used Christian symbols together with traditional Norwegian symbols, hence the dragons, for example. So they kind of mixed the culture together, like they did with, for example, Christmas. So,
and there, I mean, around the doorway, I mean, very beautiful, very intricate carvings as well too. I mean, the structure, just architecturally on the outside, is beautiful to look at.
Absolutely, yeah. Very traditional Norwegian wood carvings. You can see it looks like a nisse here, lots of dragons, and in some senses, they're similar to sort of Japanese folk art, I think, with the dragons and the And there's a Viking ship there as well, you can see, which might again be Oseberg cheaper, but I don't know. It's you can see if you saw the rose painting before, it's sort of a lot of sort of swirls. It's the same kind of thing, really.
For anyone who's seen, to get the idea of it, I've seen Lord of the Rings, and a few of you I'm sure have. In the second film, there's a lot of inspiration. There was all the inspiration for the horses, and there's got a lot of the same kind of carvings there, that kind of Nordic sort of Celtic design. That's what all this looks like. That's what they used. They went back to that Norwegian folk art carvings to get that. So just so you got a picture of it at home.
Yeah.
So the church is more than just an icon to look at outside. There's actually a folk art and a historical gallery inside. And you said when we were outside, this is actually the approximate size of what a church would be. It's not sort of a much smaller representation.
On the inside, it looks a lot smaller, actually. It would be bigger than this on the inside. Just on the outside, I think they're often longer than it is. So it's just like a lot of things Disney do. It looks different on the outside from the inside. Yeah, no, it tends to be longer, but it's probably about the width of it, I would presume. Maybe a bit wider.
So this is a great opportunity for people to learn about really what a Viking might look like. Again, here you see King Olav II, who was the patron saint of Norway. We talked about that earlier a little bit. And there's actually museum pieces here, that are silver swords and axe blades and arrow points.
There are sort of sagas about the Vikings. You can read, you can get them in English as well, and it's an incredibly violent history. It's horrible. It's one kid who killed his first person at the age of 4, I think it was, and his family was very proud. It's so it's very much of revenge as well. If one person from one family killed someone from another family, they had to revenge him and kill someone from that family. It kept going, and whole families, and in the end were just sort of deleted because
Long cold winters, nothing else to do really. They had no television, no Facebook.
Well, you can see from 750 to 1050 the far-reaching exploration routes of the Vikings, both by water and even a little bit on land too. I mean, they were not sort of confined just to that area. They went very far west as well as far east too, beyond the Caspian Sea.
Oh yeah, they did travel all around the world, and mostly they were peaceful. Mostly they were trading and learning about cultures. Well, trading was the point of it really, but obviously you found the odd Viking who would pillage and be pretty horrible. So there was some of that as well. So, but mainly it was a peaceful cult.
One of the other 3D exhibits here is of Eric the Red, who was Norwegian-born. He explored Greenland, and it also talks about how, sort of as Christianity came in, that the era of the Vikings really started to end over in Norway as well.
Yeah, it did. I suppose the Viking tradition kind of became part of the Christian tradition, and it was sort of a mix, I suppose. But it was very forced at that time. The old Viking tradition were kind of forced down as much as they could, which it's, in a sense is a bit sad. But we still have our symbols. We still have stuff we found. We still have this churches and everything, so it's still there, but it's more a part of the history now.
And connection to America, his son, who was Leif Erikson, went on to really sort of, depending on how you look at history, discover America around 1000 AD.
Yeah, we really disagree the fact that Christopher Columbus discovered America, because Leif Erikson was there first. He discovered it. Never mind the people who actually lived there in the first place who really know what they were writing about.
Well, Chris had a bigger budget. That was the trouble.
Yeah.
He was sent over there with a big pile of gold and spices and this kind of. He could afford to make more books and bigger books and put his name in bigger lights.
Yeah.
Leif probably had some kind of piece of wood and a fish or something to carve it on.
Well, I've heard stories and seen things on TV about discoveries of pieces of rock with carvings in it that look as though they bear symbols from Norwegian language, so sort of giving more proof to the fact that maybe he did actually arrive here before Christopher Columbus did.
Yeah, no, we definitely believe that. We also believe that Santa is Norwegian, but...
Well, you also have zombies coming at Christmas, so... Again, the similarities and differences of the cultures. We were talking about people from history and sort of that sense of pride And outside, there's another statue on the opposite side of a more modern Norwegian hero or heroine who unfortunately just passed away recently.
Yeah, Grete Waitz. She was a runner, won loads, and she was a big probably one of the biggest, best, most famous marathon runners ever. She recently passed away. She had cancer, and she also, during later years, she taught people with cancer that you can still be active and it's going to be good for your health. Very tough woman, very Norwegian. In Norway, we are very. I think it's our Viking tradition that you're supposed to be tough. You're not supposed to. If a kid falls over, it's not like, oh, how are you? Are you okay? It's more like, oh, that went all right. You're fine. Don't cry. Crying is.
Rub some snow on it and get up. You'll be fine.
It's very much like that. It's also we got something called janteloven, which is from Norwegian literature, which is basically all saying, don't believe you are anything, don't believe you can do anything, don't believe you're better than me. And that's kind of very much part of the Norwegian culture and Norwegian mentality, which is not a very good thing. It's getting a little bit better, but it's when you grow up, it's that kind of thing. You're not allowed to believe you're better than anyone else or that you can do anything. It's
the opposite of the kind of what from the European point of view, which I admire, the American thing, the kind of punching the air. USA, we can build it bigger, faster, better and more shiny than anybody else, which is true. Look at where we are now. The Disney World, all of it could never have been built in anywhere in Europe, because that kind of, maybe we live too close together, we haven't got enough space, I don't know.
It's pretty much the opposite of Walt Disney then, if you can dream it, you can do it kind of thing. It's dare to dream big, you can do it. If something you really want something, you can do it, and it's pretty much the opposite of that in Norway, and it's
probably a good thing, it's that kind of suppressing that Viking bloodthirsty thing, because if you had that, you'd be getting the axes back. Look at this guy, we can't see here, but this guy with the plaited beard, the axe and the shield, he looks like he's just landed his ship. First thing he does is get his axe out. So it's kind of, if Norway got that spirit back, we'd be finished.
Yeah, you pretty much would be. So
yeah, you've got those cruise ships now rather than the longboats. You've got the cruise ships out, come on land, and then, send in the Christmas
guns? No, we shouldn't do that.
And one of my favorite places to snack and one of my favorite things to introduce people to is specifically the lefse, and here we'll talk about, but we're at the
Kringla Bakeri og Cafe, which means Kringla is like a sweet pretzel. What they call it, sweet pretzel. It's not pretzelish dough, it's pretzel shaped, I suppose. Bakeri is bakery, shockingly enough. Og means and again, and cafe, shockingly enough, means cafe.
And so you were saying before how sweets and specifically cakes and treats and things like that are very, very popular in Norway.
Yeah, they are. Big cakes for anything. It's pretty much a bread culture both when it comes to cakes and when it comes to savory food as well. So there's a kind of tart here, which I have never ever seen in Norway. We don't do tarts and quiches and stuff like that. So that's, but I suppose there's potatoes in it. We do eat a lot of potatoes apart from bread in Norway. It's like in England they talk about weather. In Norway we talk about potatoes for some reason. Goat cheese we do eat a lot of as well. Mainly the brown goat cheese I talked about before. Ham and apple sandwich. I have never heard of, but we do sometimes. In Norway we have like open sandwiches. Prawns are very popular. Smoked salmon very popular. Something I used to eat a lot when I was a kid was Jarlsberg cheese with some slices of raw apple on top of it. That's really good.
I think it's one of those things that's parts of it kind of are like little bits are, so little bits are kind of something that was kind of as mutated sort of from Norwegian traditional cuisine into something which kind of fits.
Something palatable, maybe more palatable, especially here at sandwich. Because really the bakery is less about the sandwiches as it is about the desserts. And we'll sort of go through the wide variety of desserts that they have here as well.
I think sandwiches in Norway, not quite yet. In Norway, the sandwiches are what we call smørbrød. It's kind of really posh version of sandwiches you eat at parties and stuff. It's basically like the salmon egg one you see here, but with loads of stuff on top of it. It's like we're talking like 3 floors of stuff on top of it. So that's the difference. It's just a lot more stuff on it, really.
Yeah, but often like the same as like US and here, US and Britain, we always close our sandwiches. Maybe it says something about us, I don't know. But in Norway, it's open. The kind of just always one slice of bread. The concept of putting one on top of that seems, what's the point of that? You can't see what's inside, so it's kind of.
It tastes
So like the salmon and egg looks like it's an open face, one piece of bread with salmon and egg, sliced egg on top.
Yeah, basically, we often have egg hawk.
Oh, and it's scrambled egg.
Scrambled egg on top of it. That's what we do with a bit of I can't remember anything. With a bit of chives inside it. That's what we often use on the smoked salmon. We have something called gravlaks, which is a type of salmon that it's raw, but it's not smoked. I think they used to dig a hole in the ground and put it down there for a while. I hope they don't still do that, but it's basically lots of alcohol and dill and spices and stuff, and
it looks the same. It's often found in the supermarket. You might find it. It's kind of but the word gravad means dug down, doesn't it? Grave dug.
Yeah.
But people don't know that.
Yeah.
And so, as the saying goes, when in Norway, do as the Norwegians do. We're going to have cake for lunch today.
Yeah.
And again, you talked about things like the school bread, which is very, very popular here. Describe what it is.
Well, school bread, we call it skolebrød, which is it's not bread at all. It's a bun basically, which has cardamom in it, sugar in it, wheat flour, water, eggs. I think I should know this.
Usually butter as well, and margarine.
I also like butter as well. And it's made into a bun, and normally it's sort of flatter than these actually, because these are quite round. And they have a filling, they have custard inside them. Normally, it's flatter, and it's got a dip inside of it, just not in the middle of it. We put the custard, and you cook it with the custard, so it goes kind of, not quite hard, but it's sort of rubbery, I suppose, yeah. Sets like rubbery. And then we put some icing sugar on top of it, and coconut. Here they got toasted coconut. We don't use that in Norway, but the one they have here is very good. It's much stronger flavour than the one in Norway. The one in Norway is much milder. This is a spicy version, but it's other than that, it's very accurate. It does taste very good.
So we have to have a school bread, please.
Yeah, definitely school bread.
We also have to have a lefse. We got to talk about the lefse because that's one of my favorites. What are some other things you see in the case? What's that?
Verdens beste, world's best is called. It's a cake that's it's good. I wouldn't really say that it's the world's best, but it's a good cake.
Yeah, it's a complete miss-sell. Even in Norway, the kind of world's best, that's a bit extra. That's some cake you're expecting. It never lives up to it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's the name, I think. But it is a really good cake. It's sort of a meringue on top of it, and it's got a sort of yellow filling inside, and it's good. It's good. It's definitely worth trying.
Okay, so we need to try a world's kind of best and a lefse.
Yeah, definitely.
And what else? So there's a cloudberry horn.
Chocolate mousse we don't have in Norway really. Well, we do now. Let me see. Rullekake. Yeah, it's not particularly Norwegian either. We do have it, but it's not that. I mean, cloudberry are fairly Norwegian, I suppose.
The cloudberry horn, that horn. That's
the horn isn't very Norwegian either. I suppose
French pastry.
veiled maiden would be quite Norwegian. It's apple and cream. That's quite Norwegian as well.
Rice cream.
Rice cream is very Norwegian, but yeah. It's more of a Christmas thing for me.
And you were saying before you really like the rice cream.
I love the rice cream because I think I missed out as a kid having this. Yeah, it's Christmas. It's Christmas food to me.
Okay, we need to try a rice cream as well, please. And so, and the sign outside shows a pretzel with a crown on top. And here, the pretzels that you find are not ones that you normally would find on the streets of New York City. There's a sweet pretzel and another one with shaved almonds on it.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like this in Norway, ever. It's more like, if you see the school bread, it's the same dough as that we use in Norway, and we make it normally a lot bigger than that, pretzel-shaped. Again, the sort of the custard in the middle, and then some icing sugar on top of it. But these aren't very traditional.
I think what's interesting is kind of this. Obviously, they must have started asking, as in with the architects, they must have asked what's Norwegian food, then handed it to maybe an American or a French chef who's kind of done some translation of it, and then down the years things have changed and evolved to something that maybe some of it is, but kind of cloudberry is Norwegian, but the horn it's in, that's French pastry. To us, even England, that's a French pastry horn. They don't really do the puff pastry a great deal there. Everything's more kind of more of like a bread cake base. So
there's some things that are very traditional, some things are more interpretive of maybe a flavor from Norway or something that's somewhat Norwegian, but not something you'd find every day in a Norwegian home or restaurant.
Yeah, that's true. It's also it's traditional Norwegian food and modern Norwegian food, and obviously we do have chocolate mousse in Norway, like everywhere else. But that's
It's not what you're known for. You don't think of that when you think of Norway.
I was probably a teenager first time I tried chocolate mousse because we didn't have it. So, but we do have chocolate cake a lot. Often this sort of flat, gigantic chocolate cake that we eat in kids' birthdays and stuff. Oh, waffles. That's the Norwegian. Waffles.
They look like Norwegian waffles as well.
Yeah, they do. Exactly. They're sort of hard. It is shape of, I think like 5 hearts stuck together. 5 or 6. No, I think it's 5. That's 5. 5 hearts stuck together, like a flat thing with little sort of square holes in it, kind of or dips in it, which we eat with either with butter and sugar or butter and the brown cheese I talked about, the goat cheese, or Jarlsberg, or you can have it with jam. That's a very Norwegian thing.
It looks like it has a jam or a jelly inside?
Yeah, you can have that. You can have strawberry jam, which I didn't like as a kid, but yeah, it's
Is that worth trying?
Yeah, it's definitely worth trying.
How do you say excuse me in Norwegian?
Unnskyld? Hei. Kan vi få en sånn vaffel også? 3 minutter? Yeah, it's about 3 minutes to make.
Oh, they make them fresh.
Yeah, we also make.
You have to have it.
Well, now we have to have it.
Yeah.
So obviously, the one other aspect of the Norway Pavilion, besides the salt licorice, is the attraction that's here. It's one of just a couple of pavilions in World Showcase that have an actual ride-through attraction. The other, obviously, being Mexico. And this really is sort of more of a 3D story of the history of Norway, some of that Viking and that troll folklore, and a little bit of a tourism guide to what modern Norway is. You end off in that seaport village, and then it does take you into the film. You know, that, like everything else here in the entire pavilion, was really researched extensively and put together by Imagineer Joe Rohde. And certainly you know him. He's become famous in the last many years for his work on things like Animal Kingdom and Adventurers Club. But Joe Rohde and his team went through painstaking amounts of research to make it as accurate and as detailed as possible. You've got that Norse mythology with Odin telling you about peril and adventure, and the 3-headed trolls who, like you mentioned before, are out there to protect the forest and the environment. And you end off learning more about the people in Norway and how they live, and that sense of community at the end of the attraction. And then in the film, the film actually was directed by Paul Gerber. He directed 2 other films here in Epcot, which was the original Seas film, as well as Symbiosis over in the land. And you mentioned before about how the film is somewhat dated. It very much has that sort of 90s feel to it. Notwithstanding the differences maybe in hairstyles and in outfits, do you still think that it captures, pardon the expression, that spirit of Norway?
Yeah, I think you get it. I think the main thing I noticed is the sort of 17th of May, the big National Day parade you see there. So no, you get a good idea, you do, but it does look outdated, and we're not really still stuck in the 90s. It's well, some of us are, but it's no, it's a good film, but it would need to be updated, and also I find it maybe a little long, but maybe that's just me.
I think people should see it. I see too many people walking through the film. I think they should sit and watch it at least once. I think it might be a great, and maybe their only introduction into the people of Norway and the culture of Norway. And hopefully they take the time to explore the pavilion, like we said before, to talk to the cast members, to get an appreciation of what it is, especially we knowing now that it is a relatively accurate representation of what you would find there if you were to go as a tourist, and what you might be able to see and what you might be able to learn. So I think this is another one of those pavilions that the Imagineers did such a good job of taking that spirit of a country, encapsulating into an area of about 58 or so thousand square feet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely a good taster of Norway. But I think the one thing that is missing here, that's sort of it's the Norwegianist thing you can think of, really, is Norwegian nature. Obviously they can't bring a gigantic fjord in with a gigantic mountain, but it's the sort of the west side of the country, where it's a very sort of dramatic nature, that's basically the thing they can't bring in, which is missing. And it's also the ski culture, I think, because there aren't a huge amount of snow in Florida. So skiing as well. Although I do recommend if people go to Norway, they go in the summer because it's too cold in the winter. But it's a big part of the culture.
But I think that's what the film does do, and I think that's why people should see it, because I think you get a sense of just how beautiful Norway is. You know, if you come to the pavilion and you just walk through, you get a sense that this is all that Norway looks like. And when you get to see that natural environment, it is beautiful. And I think that's what it was that attracted my dad to want to say, yeah, I want to go and see it. The people here are so nice, but look at what a beautiful place this is, unlike anything we have here in the States.
Yeah, exactly. I think the film does that. It sort of supplements with the stuff you can't actually put here physically. So, it does give people a bit of a taste of what Norway is like. And I do hope people want to go and visit. As I said, I used to work in a tourist shop back when I was a student. And I think maybe only once in 2 years, 2 summers, I spoke to Americans who didn't like it. Americans generally tend to appreciate Norway and appreciate the culture there a lot more than most other natures, more than most other people from other countries that came in.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, because it's in Europe there's a lot of snobbery in Europe about the fact that America's only been around for like 5 minutes. It's like it's been around for the same length as all the other lands have. There's just the way we didn't just go and conquer it and destroy it for the most part. But there's the beauty that's around. But we accept it's what's on our doorstep. We accept ours as we kind of take it for granted. Whereas I think the nature that's in Norway, you will find probably Canada has very similar nature, I imagine. But it's like the fjords identify it most. It's that that there's so much coastline. There's more. How many? Like 10,000 miles, a ridiculous amount of miles of coastline there, which helps identify it. Which I thought very few other countries have that kind of super, absolute. That's Norway.
Well, I think it's a beautiful pavilion. I think from the church to the waterfall to the castle and the interiors of the shops and the restaurant itself, and certainly I enjoy the attraction for what it is, and I enjoy the film as well. And like you, the cast members that work here are truly very passionate about their home country and about the desire to have more people understand it and enjoy it. So if you are seeking peril and adventure, you may be disappointed, because you will find that beauty and that charm. So I really appreciate you guys taking the time today to walk with me and talk with me, dine with me, and introduce me to a lot of things that I didn't understand, some of which I'll never participate in again. Thank you, Salt Licorice. But again, guys, I really do appreciate it, and hopefully, again, more people come out and explore the pavilion in a little more detail and depth.
Thanks to you, Lou. We had great fun anyway.
It's a great time. Thanks, Lou.
That's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks so much for taking the time and tuning in this and every week. Hope you enjoyed our virtual tour of the Norway Pavilion. Hope it also encourages you to go out and explore and appreciate all the details and the culture and the history that the pavilion has to offer. We actually spent a lot more time wandering through different parts of the pavilion, and actually spent some time sitting down and tasting and enjoying some of the foods we purchased from the bakery, as well as some other items that our friends from Norway brought with them. I edited that out from this week's podcast, but I am going to include that section, that sort of food tasting section of the recording, and I'll put it in this week's show notes. You can play it or download it right from there. Just visit WDWradio.com, click on show number 236. There you'll find the audio file right there. And again, while you're there, I'd love for you to comment on this week's show. Your thoughts about the Norway Pavilion. Maybe anything you learned in this episode, or do you enjoy the pavilion? Have you taken time and gone through the attraction, the Stave Church, or even any of the dining options as well? While you're on the site, be sure and explore how you can get some more magic of Walt Disney World anytime, anywhere. Check out our daily blog posts. We had a lot of new great contributors writing some good stuff on the blog. Also have some new contests as well. You can also check out the store for the audio tours, the Walt Disney World trivia books, links to the iPhone app, including the now recently updated Walt Disney World Trivia iPhone app with more than 770 questions, descriptive answers, lots of true and false questions, new features, and more. While you're on the site, you can also check out the entire archive of back episodes of WDW Radio. You can check out our photo galleries, our videos, and come by and join the community. Meet and talk with other Disney fans in our discussion forums, or even better yet, come by and find out how you can meet in person at some of our Meets of the Month in Walt Disney World and other events like the WDW Radio Cruise on the Disney Dream. For more information and a schedule of upcoming events, you can visit DisneyMeet.com. Also, in addition to the podcast, be sure and join us every Wednesday night at 7:30 p.m. Eastern for the WDW Newscast, our live weekly video broadcast and interactive chat every Wednesday night. You can find that over at WDWNewscast.com. Also, like I said, be part of the community. Follow along with everything that's going on by coming by our Facebook page. We are facebook.com/WDW Radio. On Twitter, I am at Lou Mongello. You can also call the voicemail, be heard on the air toll-free at 888-703-2171, or email me with a question or comment at lou@wdwradio.com. Also, be sure and tune in next week for a special announcement from Celebrations Magazine, or you can find out now by going to visit celebrationspress.com. While you're there, you can also check out what's going on with our latest issue, order back issues, subscribe, and lots more. Again, that's celebrationspress.com. And visit loumongello.com to find out more about me, some of the other things I'm involved in, including private tours of Walt Disney World, speaking opportunities, some charitable efforts, and lots more. Big thanks go out to our partners and sponsors, including MEI and Mousefan Travel. They are my recommended travel provider for all your vacation planning needs. Look, Becky and her team will not only get you the best possible prices, all available discounts, an incredible level of personal service really is what separates them from everyone else. And again, all at no additional cost to you. When you're coming to visit Walt Disney World, maybe you want something a little bit different. Maybe you want a 2-bedroom condo or a 7-bedroom house with multiple master bedrooms, private pools and spas and game rooms. If so, AllStarVacationHomes.com has more than 150 homes within just a couple of miles of Walt Disney World. And if you come down and want to stay right in the heart of the action on property, you know I love the Walt Disney World Swan and Dolphin. They've got the 17 world-class restaurants and lounges, the Mandara Spa, lots of other Disney benefits, a great pool, and of course, the oh-so-comfortable heavenly beds. Visit them over at swananddolphin.com. Be sure and tune in over the next few weeks. We're going to have some great recaps of Disney's D23 Expo, our Adventures by Disney Backstage Magic Tour, a couple of new announcements, a few surprises, some more contests, and lots more. Again, you can keep up with everything over on Twitter, on Facebook, and by going and exploring the website over at WDWRadio.com. As always, my friends, and you are my friends, and you proved that at the Expo, if you like the show, all I ask is that you please help spread the word. Let others know about it. Tweet out that you're listening. Share links on Facebook or Google+. And come by, please rate and review the show and the iPhone apps over in the iTunes Store. And remember that there is no time like right now to start pursuing your own passion. So be positive, get motivated, start following your dream. And when you do, always keep moving forward. Thank you so very much for taking the time and tuning in this and every week. You fuel my passion. So until next time, I hope you guys have a great week this week. See ya.
Hi, Lou. This is Emily from Virginia. I formerly Newport News, Virginia, now Suffolk, Virginia. I wanted to call in and tell you congratulations and good luck on your move to Orlando. We just went through a move last week. Unfortunately, not to Orlando, but I know you're going to have a great time there. My sister lives down there, and she absolutely loves it. And any move closer to Disney World is a good one in my book. So good luck, and here's wishing you good moving karma. Have a good one, Lou. Bye.
Hey, Lou. This is Heather S. from Nashville. I'm with my family right now at Cosmic Rays in Disney World. We're listening to Sunny Eclipse. In fact, you might get a kick out of hearing us. Hear some of the sounds. You can hear it. We're enjoying the toppings bar with our dining plan. My sister and I got a cheeseburger. My parents got the chicken and ribs, and we're having a great time. And can't wait to hear the show again. Have a great day.
Hello, Lou. This is Justin once again from Ardsley, New York. And of course, I just began reading The Kingdom Keepers, the fourth Kingdom Keepers. and at I believe it is Power Play, and that book is getting very interesting. I know that, like, compared to, like, the third Kingdom Keepers and the fourth of Power Play, I just noticed that, of course, that we mentioned that the last book, the third Kingdom Keepers, Disney Shadow, the characters also go back to Norway, and they wrote, and did you know that the Kingdom Keepers went on the Maelstrom ride in the third Kingdom Keepers, but now instead of riding it, they actually go backwards and went through like the waterfall, like you go to the entrance before you go in the attraction, you see the waterfall come out, and the boat goes backwards and then forward, and that is, of course, their entry instead of the main entrance of the ride. So they started off with the base of the attraction, and they went backwards for it. Now I noticed that I saw Really Pearson once he's there at the D23 Expo. It's good to have like clues, like you're writing them down. I've been writing down clues for the texting and all the messaging. Well, keep an eye on the keepers lately on the book. I kept it very nice and simple and very easy to bring those clues. And you just mentioned, because we are absolutely a week away to the D23 Expo, it's a race for my books to finish before heading to D23 Expo. A race, so I am just a couple of chapters away, and I'm finishing the book and seeing Mr. Sir Ridley Pearson at D23 Expo. And I'll see you there too, Lou, at the Expo as well. See you in a week, Lou. Until next week at the Expo. See ya. Real soon.
Hi, Lou. Jen Tremley from Bristol, Connecticut. Just wanted to say hi. I hope you're having a good time on your Adventures by Disney trip, and then right into the Expo this weekend. It's Monday, August 15th. Just got finished listening to this week's show, 235, with the listener email with you and Becky. Enjoy the show as always. Just saw a few of your pictures on Twitter, and sounds like you guys are having a blast out in Southern California. So I hope you guys have a great time, and I'm looking forward to listening to or seeing your show from the box this weekend at the D23 Expo. And I just wanted to say congratulations and good luck on your new move to Orlando. Sounds like it's the right decision. You spend a lot of your time there, so it just makes sense that you live, more local to the Orlando area. And I just want to say good luck, and I'm sure everything will turn out fine. And you'll be, I'm sure you and your family will be happy that you're living so close to the magic now. And you'll be at the parks, I'm sure, more than you have been, which is a surprising thing, because I'm sure you're there quite a bit as it is. But anyway, you're living the dream, man, and I hope one of these days I can certainly live the dream too, and either work for Disney or somehow move to Florida and be closer to the magic myself. So again, thanks for everything you do, and we will hopefully see each other soon, and I look forward to next week's show. Have a great week, and we'll talk later. Bye-bye.
Hey, Lou, it's Glenn from Alabama. Just got finished listening to Hidden Treasures audio sound bites from the parks, and I tell you what, this is not the first time it's happened. I was sitting there thinking, man, I hope they bring up the sound booths, and no sooner had I thought that than you mentioned it at the end or at the exit of Sounds Dangerous, the sound booths. And of course the Rafiki's Planet Watch. I've not actually been able to go and listen or go to that particular attraction at Rafiki's Planet Watch. That the sound booth, and this is a tip, I guess, for those out there who have never experienced it, and I just wanted to echo your thoughts on it. Those sound booths are amazing. That's me. The first day that I ever sat in one of those. And I recommend those to this day for people going to Disney World. And I say, if you want something, especially people who have never been to Disney World, if you want to experience some real magic, go into one of these sound booths. There was a story, the one that we went in, I don't know if they're all different, but the one that we went in, the story was that you were being prepared to meet the head of some big organization. And I mean, what they did with those earphones in that booth was absolutely amazing. You talked about the technology that's out right now on different headsets with iPhones and iPods and whatnot. I don't know about that. But what they were able to do with sound was just amazing, from them cutting your hair, blow drying your hair, putting something on your head. I don't know what it was, but it was all done through sound. It is amazing technology in there. So if you ever catch that open, and I don't think you have to actually go through and watch Sounds Dangerous to do this. You can just enter through the exit of Sounds Dangerous. Walk into one of those sound booths. It takes less than 10 minutes. There's no line, like you said. Most people walk right by them. You need to experience the sound booths, because those are something else, something to listen to, something to participate in for sure. Thanks for bringing it up. A really cool segment. At the beginning, I was thinking, I don't know about this. I don't know if this segment. But again, you didn't fail me. You never fail me, Lou. Your shows always great, and thank you so much. I hope to see you one day. Bye.
You've got